My name is Ken Evans. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Urban Chamber of Commerce Small Business Conversation with U.S. Senator Rosen and our in Nevada Small Business Administration District Director, Joseph Amato. Before I go into the format, the one thing that I definitely want to do is make sure that I take the time to thank everyone for being here. In addition to that, I know we have several of our board members that are online, but in particular at this time, what I'd like to do is introduce our Urban Chamber Board of Directors Chair, Shaundell Newsome, so that he can bring words of greetings for a couple of minutes. So Shaundell Newsome, if you would, please give us a couple of minutes of greetings, please.
Absolutely, Ken. Thank you very much. And thank you again. Like Ken said, I'm very grateful today that we are here because as I was talking right before everybody got on the call, we are blessed to be in the state of Nevada. And I do thank all of you. I thank you for your leadership, Senator, and I thank the governor for his leadership because my home state of New York is really going through it. And I heard from my cousin who is a nurse, and she said, you do not want to experience what we're going through. If you can flatten the curve, if you can keep people safe, do that. There's one thing that we can't ever recover from, and we can't recover from the loss of lives. We can recover from the loss of revenue, but we can never recover from the loss of lives. We are all entrepreneurial. I know my board members are entrepreneurial. I know Joe's entrepreneurial. And I know I want everybody to understand that I am all for keeping people safe and keeping them alive so that they can prosper later on. And God knows that we need to pray for those first responders. We need to pray for those people who are out there. If you didn't see it, I'm going to just put it out there. It's not a shameless plug. It's just my son-in-law was mentioned by the governor as one of those first responders who saved that 3-year-old who was capsized in the boat down at the lake. So those people put their lives on the line every single day, and I owe it to them to wear a mask, to keep them safe and keep the pressure off of them. So I thank all of you because Nevada has been incredible. The business community has been incredible. And I kept talking about our Nevada leadership. Speaker Pelosi said you guys were all over her and making sure that Nevadans were represented out in Washington, D.C. So I am thankful to everybody who is on this call, who is always looking out for the best interests of our businesses in Nevada. Thank you, Ken, for that opportunity.
Ken, we can't hear you.
Right, Ken, you got to unmute.
There you go. Thank you, Senator. I'm still having a challenge here there, but what I want to do is just say thank you, Chair Newsome, for those words of greetings. And now what I'm going to do is just give everybody an idea of the flow and the agenda for today's small business conversation. What we'll do is we'll have some time, about 10 minutes plus or minus, to hear from the Senator. I'm sure she has some updates for us about the latest and greatest. Plus, I also know they're working some issues and items that they want to see in pending legislation. So we'll hear from her. Then next up, we'll hear from our Nevada SBA District Director, Joe Amato. I'm sure he may have some updates or some common trends and things that he wants to share. And then after the two of them have had a chance to provide us with some initial comments and things to consider, then we'll go into a Q&A. And again, a reminder, at that time, please type your questions in the chat box. And Delisa Stewart from our staff will be monitoring to help bring those to our attention. So without further ado, I definitely want to bring someone to the forefront who's been a friend of the Urban Chamber. In addition to that, she has been a small business owner and entrepreneur herself, in particular in the information technology field. So I'm sure she's all over the Zoom technology and other things that are going on, but just definitely a friend, a supporter of the Urban Chamber, a friend and supporter of small business, and then bottom line, definitely a friend and supporter of the state of Nevada, Without further ado, U.S. Senator Jacky Rosen.
Oh, Ken, thank you for those kind words, Shaundell. I have to say that I couldn't say it any better than what you said. The only things we can't replace in life are the ones that we love. And everything else we can find a way back with, for money, for a home, for stuff, for all those things. And so we have to find a way to protect lives and our livelihoods. And that's why Joe and I are here today. I'm going to introduce Joe in a minute. I think Joe's probably approaching about 90 of these webinars. I've done a bunch with him. We are lucky in Nevada because you have I want to say a pit bull. He is a fighter champion for Nevada and the small businesses. We are really, really lucky. I don't know if they do in other states, but we're never letting him leave Nevada. And so I just want to, like I said, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for doing what you do for your families, for your friends, for supporting the community, for being respectful of our, not just first responders, those essential workers, the people at the grocery store, the gas station, your mailman or woman. I mean, everyone's out there, people picking up the garbage. I mean, people are trying to keep life going for us at their own risk. And so what we do to respect each and every one of them, they deserve our thanks and respect. We're going to keep doing that. And of course, you'll see me here. I'm in Washington. You see Nelson there. He's holding down the fort with my team in Nevada. And we're here these few weeks. I've been staying here because I don't want to take so many trips on the plane, but we're here fighting. So we are sure that we are in every meeting and every hearing. We've had hearings this week on broadband, on COVID, on vaccines, on testing, on PPE. We are doing everything we can. We might be doing it by Zoom, but I am fighting for you every day. And of course, I'll talk a little bit about the prior packages, but yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the House introduced that $3 trillion, that new package. They're calling it the HEROES Act. They will be voting on passing that this evening. They believe that they will pass that. And it has a lot of really important, robust funding for state and local communities. Why is that important? I don't have to tell any of you this, because our state and local communities are the ones that help fix the roads, keep the stoplights going, the police, the firefighters, the community centers, the youth centers, our education, our flood districts for us in Southern, they do all that infrastructure work right down at the town level. And then of course we do it city, state, or city, county, state. And so it's important that we make sure that we keep our communities afloat. We want to keep the potholes getting fixed, I guess, if you will, and keep those things running. I know the state's upgraded their unemployment program. They've had to add lots of new programming because as we've released all the guardrails and we've allowed new kinds of people to apply for unemployment, they had to create that software to let that happen. It is my understanding that that system for contract workers, gig workers, your barbers, hair salon, where I'm going to next Sunday when I come home, but anybody who works like that didn't typically get unemployment before will be able to get that pandemic unemployment insurance starting this week, and it's my understanding that it will be retroactive. And so, of course, Governor Sisolak, we've taken those first steps to safely reopen, and we're going to do the best we can to keep those numbers down. I, like Shaundell, have talked to people in the hot spots, and we want to be we love that Las Vegas is a hot spot, but that's a hot spot for fun and entertainment. We don't want to be the hot spot for COVID. And so it's really important that we measure what we do, because we don't want to lose anyone. And particularly our communities of color, COVID-19 is impacting them disproportionately. Our African-American, our Latino communities across the country have been hit harder than any other community. It's untenable. There's probably many reasons why. We need to figure that out. We know some of them probably just empirically, but the rest we will need to figure out, and then also do something to correct that. And I know a lot of you know me, and Shaundell, I just saw you were probably one of the last few people that was in Washington when we, right? That was not so, it seems like a million years ago. I'm pointing to where he is on the screen. I know you guys can't see that, but that was probably one of the last times that we really saw people in our office right about then. But we're working really hard to be sure that Nevada's voice is heard. I want to tell you that I'm on the White House Task Force for Opening Up America. Again, there's a congressional task force appointed by the White House. There was only 13 Democrats appointed to that, almost all the Republicans. I am very proud to be on that. Let me tell you why. First of all, that means Nevada has a seat at the table. I'm the only member of the federal delegation in that. But more importantly, as I work with the governor, the rest of the federal delegation, every mayor, and every county, all the county commissioners, all through the state, gathering what's important for Nevada, community leaders, all of our chambers, I get to present to the president in some form or fashion what's important to Nevadans. If he does it, I will be happy to give him the praise. And if he doesn't, then we can say that we asked and we demanded and we did everything we could to illuminate what we need, and he wasn't responding. They weren't responding, and we'll hold their feet to the fire whatever way we need to do that. But be sure that you have a seat at the table there. And that's why it's important for me to answer your questions and be here. Again, you guys really know me. And the thing that's most important to me is carrying your stories forward, because I am only as strong as an advocate as the stories that I hear from people. What are their worries, their passions, their desires, their aspirations, their complaints? We take those and try to turn it into, for me, three things. Some legislation that's timely, targeted, and thoughtful. I can't do it without you. So I'm going to give a little plug for my website. Some of the stuff we're doing, I'm going to turn it over to the amazing Joe Amato, because he's got the nuts and bolts of a lot of these things that small business owners are worried about, PPP and the EIDL loans and the others. And so on my website, rosen.senate.gov, I have two portals. One of them is a portal for all of COVID-19. It has links for unemployment insurance, for our health districts. There's probably 15 to 20 links. If you have a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac mortgage, some of the things about forbearance there. We've just been putting as many links, as many pages for frequently asked questions, as everything it is testing related to COVID that we can. We also have, I'm the only member on the federal delegation to be on small business committees. So we have a small business portal, and that one has links to SBA, all kinds of frequently asked questions, other things. We're updating it daily if we have to, as we get more and more information. You go to either one of those portals on my website, you can find the information. It is in English, Spanish, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, and Tagalog. I never want language to be a barrier to anyone. So for your friends in the community that English may not be their first language, they can get resources too, because I know you guys are men and women. I say guys, I should say the generic guys. I know there's women out there too, but you're out part of the community talking to a lot of people. So we're doing that. And if the answers aren't there, you email or call our team. We are fielding, answering every call. We've been helping hundreds of businesses. Nelson, I think we're probably over 400 businesses. Joe answers like 500 emails a day. And I can tell you that Joe, like I said, he is a businessman himself. He's an entrepreneur, businessman, worked in the private sector, now works for the SBA. He calls Nevada his home. He has just been, I always tease him, when does he sleep? Because he literally gives his email out to everyone. I know he listens and answers to all of those. I'm in constant contact with him whenever he sees a problem that we need to bring our voice at the federal level to bear. And we've done that, and we've become great friends and partners. So Joe, I'm going to pass it over to you, my friend.
I will catch it. Here I go. Oof. I like that new tagline, the amazing Joe Amato. I've never heard that one before. It's usually Joe Amato with some kind of four-letter word before or after it. I don't know. And it's always a nice four-letter word.
Your mom asked me to say that. So
well, I know that's a lie. Senator Rosen, and I will tell everyone out there, I mean, this has not been a quiet time for anyone here at the SBA or the Senator's office or any congressional office throughout the state. And I will tell you, I didn't know Senator Rosen at all before this all began. And she not only has an ally now, but between Senator Rosen and her staff, we've become just sort of very much attached at the hip in trying to not only get things done for the state of Nevada, for the small business of Nevada, but really trying to get a message out there that is one of hope and recovery, and at the same time safety and deliberation. So and the same with, and I have to give props out to Shaundell and Ken. You guys rock. You represent your community extremely well. You are my gateway in a lot of ways to the things that I'm trying to accomplish. This is not by any stretch of imagination what I signed up for, but in true leadership, my boss said to me yesterday, he said, true leaders basically don't have to become leaders. They are leaders, and they evidence that when times like this happen. And, I've been in this game for 30 plus years, and I've been all over this country, doing things, championing small business, both in the private sector and the public sector. And for the 3 years, I'm going on 3 years now, I'm being here in Nevada, running the SBA. I not only have done things that I never thought myself to have to do, but I also was able to really lead an amazing team. All of you, most of you know Saul Ramos, my deputy. He's doing in the Latin, Hispanic, the Latino community, things that are just tremendously beneficial there, as well as running the office on a day-to-day basis. And my staff basically has stepped up like champions as well to really try to get the information out there, because everybody's hurting. I mean, everybody's hurting. When I see this stupid question in some of the documents saying, have you been affected by COVID? Everybody's affected by COVID, whether or not it's physically or whether or not it's not financially, whether or not you're a business owner or just a participant in business. Everybody's affected, and in no way, shape, or form anybody ever thought it would be like this. So, Senator Rosen, thank you so much for everything that you do to support us. I've already reached out to your staff. We have to have a follow-up conversation to the conversation yesterday about the situation that's going on. For all intents and purposes, Nevada is a very small business community and a very small community in the sense of compared to other states. One of the things that I want to tell you that is working very well is that the EIDL program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, is continuing to move along. Actually, the last 2 days, I've seen more interaction between the EIDL program and individual borrowers than I've ever seen before, because I think we've been pounding the drum for weeks now. This program's in its 7th or 8th week. That there's just not enough interaction, enough information. There's not enough positive movement forward. Loans are starting to go out. The advances, one of the biggest problems with the EIDL program was there was over 5 million applications when they thought there were going to be less than 1 million when this thing started. And the systems that they put in, the change in the program to make it a very tedious program to a very streamlined program, just inundated the system even more. And what ended up happening was they just can't get through the applications fast enough. So I probably, of the 500 to 600 emails and phone calls I make a day, and that is not an exaggeration, about 80% of them are about EIDL. And I'm trying, and they're trying to basically get the money out there as quickly as possible. And to focus the EIDL money where it's supposed to be, on the operation of the business. They created the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, to help you with payroll. And that is even going through some renaissance itself. There's a change right now that I actually got to talk to Senator Rosen's staff before. A bunch of us started a couple of weeks ago with saying the 8-week period is not long enough for people to use their money. And that the funding that you get from PPP, when you're combating, your business is still closed down. Your situation is that you can't bring all your employees back because of unemployment. Well, the first thing Congress did was basically work on making the adjustment with the unemployment insurance. So now, as a business, if you have on your application, you have 10 employees and you reach out to your 10 employees because you want to get operations starting because you got your PPP funding, and 8 of them say, listen, I got a better gig getting $1,000 a week from unemployment. I can't come, I have to stay there right now comparatively. Well, now a business has a hedge per se, where basically any employee they reach out to and document, and those employees cannot come back or choose not to come back because they're on unemployment right now, that you get that number discounted from your application number, which is vital. I mean, if you are supposed to get 10 employees and 5 of them you reach out to and 5 of them respond and say, listen, got a better gig on unemployment, I'm going to stay on until it exhausts, then your magic number isn't 10 anymore, it's 5 for loan forgiveness. And that's really, really important. The problem is, if you're a business that needs 10 people, you may have to replace those 5 that won't come on unemployment now, because you have to still be a business owner. I would say 25 to 30% of the questions I get every day, my first thing is said is, you're the business owner, you make the decisions. I mean, we are not the government to run your company. We're the government to give you a helping hand, to assist you through this crisis, but we're not here to run your company. We don't want to run your company. We want you to run your company successfully as you always have done. So the unemployment exemption was very helpful. This possibility, because it's now in the Senate, and I know Senator Rosen is I won't speak for her, but I think it is going to be something that's very positive to happen. If we're able to take the PPP funding and not have to use it within the 8-week period, but use it over what possibly may be a 16-week period, that's what's basically being offered by the Senate right now, or under consideration of the Senate. I don't know all the terminology, Senator Rosen. I think it's under consideration. If that does work, and if that does work without limits, I think that will help a lot of businesses, because a lot of businesses are telling me that 8 weeks is going to end and I'm going to use 50% of the money because I only have 50% of my staff, or I only have 50% of my use 50% of money because I'm not ramping up yet because of stay-at-home orders and because of state mandates. I can't open up my business fully, or I can't open it up at all. We have to be sensitive to that. And one of the things that I think has been the greatest asset of the CARES Act is the willingness of Congress to be flexible, to understand where there's a roadblock, understand where there's a problem, a cliff or a pitfall, and they've been able to react in unison. I mean, it's by far one of the things in most part that I've seen is that everybody is trying to work together to get this legislation right and get the money out to the people as fast as possible. Just to give a little bit of note, PPP, I want everybody to dispel the rumor, because I'm sick of hearing it, that PPP is going to run out of money. I made that very clear to Senator Rosen last week. We got plenty of money in PPP. We've got over $100 billion left right now, and over $100 billion of the $310 billion left for disbursement. And all the backlogs have been filled. All the applications that didn't get taken care of in the first round of PPP funding have been taken care of. And we're basically, my understanding is we're basically using about $1 billion a day in new PPP applications, which is an amazing opportunity for us, because for all intents and purposes, that means the PPP money may last for another couple of weeks, if not longer. And may even last to the deadline of June 30th. So for those that are out there, and especially when we talked about the one thing here, if you're having difficulty in getting PPP approval, if you haven't heard from your bank, please do not hesitate to reach out to Ken, to Shaundell. They know how to reach out to me and basically let me know what's going on. One thing specifically that I saw in the questions, if you're an independent contractor, there are 2 different ways a lender can go to finance your PPP funding. One is they can use your Schedule C, which is written into the interim final rule. That is one section or one way that a lender can look at the way to compensate you for PPP is through Schedule C, line 31, your net income. There is also certain lenders that have interpreted it in a very positive way as well, where they're actually not using Schedule C, they're using your actual 1099, which is reflective of your actual income for 2019. If you are having individuals that are basically being bogged down because they're not getting enough PPP money because of Schedule C, and they haven't fully applied yet, or they haven't been funded yet, because at that point I can't help, let me know and I will help them. There are several lenders in the state that are using 1099 as baseline. And the most that you can get under PPP as an individual is $100,000 as your baseline. $100,000 divided by 12 is $8,333 times 2.5 is $20,832. That could mean a world of difference to an individual that is an independent contractor to get basically $21,000. That would be forgivable because you're an employee of one. And when you put on your application, you put 8333, 20,832, employee of one. You're going to keep yourself employed for 8 weeks. You're going to use all the money for payroll, most likely. And guess what? It'll be forgiven. So I've actually been involved with probably close to 1,000 independent contractor loans through the couple of lenders that I have that are doing it based on 1099. So I want you to realize that is an avenue. If you haven't applied and been funded already, Ken, Shaundell, you know business out there, hairdressers, tattoo artists, individuals that work in trainers at gyms, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, all those people out there that are 1099 contractors, definitely we can help you and we can get you the max amount of money if you've made up to $100,000 or more, for sure. And if even, I did PPP, helped somebody the other day, got a $5,000 PPP loan. She cried on the phone. 5,000. She goes, I got my funding. 5,000 without you, and the stories are insane. I mean, the littlest amount can help the greatest amount of people, and that's what we're trying to do here. So, I hope I haven't talked too much or gone over time, and I'm ready to take questions.
No, Joe, that is perfect. You hit several of the key items that I know individuals are interested in. Definitely glad you got the word out that there are more PPP funds available. In fact, one of the things I've been trying to tell people is the recent CARES Act, there was a set aside amount of $60 billion. And maybe what I'll do is I'll ask the senator to chime in on this as well. One of the concerns is that small, diverse businesses, specifically minority-owned businesses, may not have received access or achieved access to previous PPP allotments. But my understanding is that with this recent round, there's $60 billion for minority firms in particular, plus they opened up some other financial institutions, Senator, that you may want to share with our listeners about to make sure that small, diverse businesses get PPP funds.
We sure did. In the beginning, the first few bills, the first 3 bills, and then we call COVID 3.5, the most recent one, everything happened with COVID so incredibly quickly. It was a little bit of brute force. That first bill, get things out to the hospitals and the PPE, and not the PPP, the PPE, and just try to do all of that healthcare things. The second one, trying to get to people at their kitchen table. The third one, trying to work for workers and for our businesses, our small businesses. And then we had to reflect back of everything happened so quickly. What were the consequences, intended or otherwise, that kind of fell out from there. So we realized that we had to be sure that the community financial, the CFDIs, the community financial development institutions, the direct minority lenders, all of those lenders needed to be sure that they had a special set aside. We set aside $30 billion, be sure that people who were unbanked, underbanked, people, just doesn't necessarily apply for this group, but in rural Nevada, in rural places, not just Nevada, but across the country, a lot of times people have small businesses. They don't really even have, we say unbanked, they didn't really have a reason to have a banking relationship. So being able to put that set aside for our minority institutions, for our community development institutions, for our community banks and credit unions, which Joe can tell you have been the champions really locally of helping people. Home is Nevada for them too, and they know that, and these are their communities, the people who work there, and all of these, and they've been the very best partners with us. So we were very good at putting aside that money, and if we have to do more set aside, if that runs out, we are absolutely going to do that.
And thank you, Senator. We definitely appreciate that targeted, in fact, I'm going to borrow one of your words here. We appreciate that targeted approach on your part and other members of our congressional delegation, because again, it does help, especially for the communities of color that are being disproportionately impacted. It's good to know that our small businesses can be taken care of. In fact, I put something in the chat room, but I'll say it verbally as well. The Urban Chamber has direct relationships with a couple of the community development financial institutions, or CDFIs. So what I'll share is, if you are looking for PPP and you've either been unsuccessful or haven't thought about it just yet, someone from our staff will put it 702-648-6222, extension 103, or info@urbanchamber.org, and we'll help be part of the portal to get you in the right direction as far as PPP is concerned. So thanks again, Senator, for all your efforts on that, as well as your colleagues.
Ken, I want to say something too. Senator Rosen mentioned the trip to DC. We had 2 more scheduled. We were coming again. I think you have one scheduled for maybe September or something with the Las Vegas Metro Chamber and LVGEA. One of the things that I really appreciated is we had a great discussion around small businesses, the SBDC funding for the MBDA, which is a grant that we just went for. The Urban Chamber just went for that MBDA. When we told you and others that we heard that the Minority Business Development Agency would be defunded, you said absolutely not on your watch. So I want people to clearly on this call realize that you have not become a champion just now. You have been a champion from day one when you went to DC. You said you were going to be a champion for small businesses. You're on the committee, and you have had that voice, and you've been consistent with that voice. And in fact, the last time when I was in DC, you were going on the breakdown that evening on KCC.
I'm going on. Can I plug? I'm doing something with Lawrence Weekly tomorrow. So we don't do the breakdown again. I'm trying to decide if I'll do it here or when I get back. But Lawrence Weekly's tomorrow. I'm not sure the time. I'd have to check.
Okay. But I just wanted to make sure people knew. And then Joe, every time Ken and I have reached out to you, you've been very responsive, and immediately you said, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to get it, and you've gotten it. And a lot of our small businesses, and some of them are on the call right now, really appreciate your advocacy. So, and that's what it's all about. That's why I love this state. That's why I love what we're doing. I love the relationship that we have that's one-on-one. I hear nightmares across the country, but I do appreciate you guys.
No, and what we're trying to do, obviously, I've used, in a very good word, Ken and yourself to be sort of my eyes and ears with especially the African American community. Saul is reaching out constantly for the Latin and Latino community, and I have some links to the Asian community as well. And we've really, really tried to do outreach. As Senator Rosen has said, this is my actual 90th webinar today. I'm going to try to hit 100 by next week. And with those, I've done, specifically for places like the Urban Chamber. I've done it for the Latin, the Hispanic and the Latin Chamber. I've done things with the Asian Chamber. It's really important for us, and Senator Rosen's been on almost every one of them with me. It's really important for us to make sure that the underserved are being served, not the best and most, but that they're really taking the forefront here. I've more than understood that issue since the day I got here in Nevada, that the underserved communities weren't being served well by the SBA because nobody knew what the SBA was. But now in this situation that we're trying to do the best, and the best way for me to do what I do well is to get to know people like Ken and you, Shaundell, to basically be the trumpeter of what we're trying to get accomplished. The only I guess, the most important thing for me to do is actually deliver. Because I don't like to talk, even though I talk all the time, I like to deliver. And I think that's something that both the Senator and I have really dedicated ourselves to, is actually delivering results, not just talking about things.
It's the most gratifying when you can deliver. So I think, is Delisa going to moderate some of our questions? Yes.
I'm going to move into that. One thing that housekeeping I need to mention is that this is a closed event to the press. The idea behind today's event is for our small business owners to connect with our elected official as well as our SBA directors. So again, just a reminder, this is a closed event to the press. With that, there was a question that was submitted earlier. One of the things that's happening is with the slowdown in air travel, McCarran Airport is being impacted. and specifically a lot of less traffic, a lot less revenue for the concessionaires there. So the question was, at some point in time, will there be an effort made to get EIDL or PPP funds or some type of funding for the airport concessionaires, especially the ones that are disadvantaged business enterprise airport concessionaires?
Well, I can tell you, I'm not sure the latest McCarran number. I think it's over 50, around 50%. The Reno Lake Tahoe Airport is down 96% of flights. They had 600 people in an entire airport for the whole day. So this is happening terribly up north, and not quite as bad down south, but pretty bad. And so I was in a Commerce Committee hearing the other day, and I think we probably posted the question, but one of the things I asked about was the impact for us, travel and tourism. Of course, McCarran, I don't have to tell any of you, more than 50 million people go through there every year. We know that we have all those concessions, many of them owned, minority or women-owned, veteran-owned, all of those things. So I asked specifically what we were going to be able to do to make them whole as we try to reopen our airports and do what we need to do. And I'm trying to work with the SBA Administrator Carranza, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin. I think I've had them on speed dial in the last few weeks, persistently asking them to continue to modify regulations that may have been in place before, but don't apply anymore because COVID is an equal opportunity. I guess a predator is probably too kind of a word to call this disease, but I'll call it a predator. And so no one's going unnoticed or untouched, excuse me, in some way. And we're waiting for some guidance from them on that, but it was a question I asked the other day, and we're going to continue to fight to be sure that all of our businesses are able to apply for it's Congress's intent, whether it's unemployment insurance, PPP, EIDL loans, EIDL grants, bigger businesses, that people get the help they need so we can stay the course till science gets us some therapies and a vaccine.
Mm-hmm. And I actually reached out to Cliff directly when I saw the chat, and I told him that we are looking ourselves. We think the extension of the PPP period could be helpful to some of these businesses, as we hope and pray that there is more increased traffic when we get back into the hotter June, July, and August months. So. And I told Cliff specifically, anything that I see that's on the horizon that I think is going to be helpful, especially to the businesses that are being affected so vitally by hospitality and travel and the restaurant industry, we're going to do everything we can to get information out there and try to find some solutions quickly.
Okay, thank you. We are receiving several success stories, and so I just want to take this time to say thank you very much, Joe, to your staff. You've been a great partner. Your team has been a great partner to work with us, and we are indeed producing the results in terms of successful EIDL loans, as well as more recently PPP funds are getting out as well. One question I did have, I've run into this, as far as individuals that are felons or ex-offenders, sometimes when they're trying to access some of these funds, that can be a barrier. So my question is there any consideration for not disqualifying people that are ex-offenders, especially if they have a felony as it relates to either getting EIDL funds or PPP funds? And I'll defer that one to Joe.
Okay. Well, anyone that has that situation has to fall within the normal SBA 7A guidelines. And every situation is given special consideration. So there is what they call the Form 912, where you have to disclose a situation that may have happened in your past. I know that we're an advocate for individuals that basically have that type of situation, especially if it was something that was remote, something that hadn't had in any kind of time in the recent times. And we try to do what we can to advocate for a position for approval. So if anyone is in that situation, we do look at it on a case-by-case basis. Members from my staff basically will we'll basically collect the information and work with central office to try to get an approval based on what the issue was. But it's not an automatic disqualifier. It basically just kicks up to a higher level. I've dealt with probably close to 200 or 300 of these in the 22 plus years I've been involved in SBA funding. So, and most of the time the SBA is very, very amiable toward a solution. So it is not an automatic disqualifier. It just basically takes it to a higher level where my office gets involved in advocating on behalf of that individual, helping them get the information necessary, and then submitting it to central office for consideration.
And I want to add too, this is particularly hurt the African American community disproportionately because of course, levels of incarceration, other issues that we have. And so we have asked Treasury to look into this, not just for Nevada, but across the board, because people who have, excuse me, served their time, come out and become business owners and rehabilitated themselves, whatever that, they have served their time. Now they're business owners, they're members of the community. They should be able to receive the same treatment that everyone else receives. We don't hold that against them. And so we've asked Treasury to look into it. There's a lot of vocal support from many senators on that one. You can be sure, and we're waiting to hear, but it should not be a disqualifier.
That is great to hear. And so I want to say thank you to Joe for being an advocate. And then Senator, I definitely want to say thank you for pushing it at the legislative level as well. One of the things the reason why this is so important is because for many of the ex-offenders that may have trouble getting employment, this is their chance to create an opportunity or employment for themselves. So thank you again, Senator, for doing that. Just want to remind people that you can type in your questions to chat. We're at the portion where we do have some time now to take questions from the floor. So please type in your questions in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them.
Can I address a question that just came up on the chat? It's a good segue to talk about forgiveness on the PPP loans. For forgiveness of PPP loans, and it's very funny, I wrote a LinkedIn sort of column basically to explain forgiveness on a national basis and got like 10,000 views of just explaining the simplicity of forgiveness. Congress actually did a great job. SBA interpreted it correctly. Forgiveness is two-pronged, okay? If you basically get PPP funding, say hypothetically you get $100,000, as long as 75% of that money, at least 75% of that money, so $75,000 in our example, has to be used for payroll. That is prong one. So you basically pass that test and at least 75,000 of your 100,000 or 75% is used for payroll. That is, you pass the first test of forgiveness. The other 25% you have to use for eligible PPP costs, which is mortgage interest rate, rents, lease, and utility payments, more occupancy related. The second prong is your number of employees or number of full-time employees or number of bodies that you basically put on your application. You have to meet or exceed that number. And listen to what I'm saying. You have to meet or exceed that number during the 8-week period. It is currently still 8 weeks. It has not been extended. During that 8-week period for you to basically get forgiveness. So, and it is supposed to be day 1 after you receive funding to day 7, week 8, you're supposed to have that number of employees. Now, the question is, if you have 10 employees on your application, but only 8 come back and the 2 aren't coming back because of unemployment insurance, then you're in a situation where you're not getting completely ostracized from forgiveness, but you're going to get 80% forgiveness in that case, 8 of 10 employees. So the real focus is on trying to get yourself to have your employees that you need to have for the 8 weeks, use 75% of the money. Now the question here was, they understand if the loan is under $2 million, it's easy to get forgiveness. That's wrong. What the question should say is that they understand that under $2 million, you're not supposed to get audited. The SBA has basically put out a memo saying that if you're $2 million or more in PPP funding, that you're going to be subject to audit. Under $2 million or over $2 million, if you follow those 2 criteria, you're going to get forgiveness, 75% of loan funds and matching the number of employees. Now, I will tell you, there's probably going to be some more consideration and guidance because Congress is constantly looking at this thing and it's being very flexible and evolving it. There may be some changes that are very beneficial, but I will tell you, the intent of Congress was to forgive these loans. And Senator, am I correct in saying that?
You are absolutely correct. And the intent of Congress, and the reason that I have SBA Carranza and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin on speed dial is that when they use old regulations that may have worked for some prior time, not applicable now, all the rules are gone with COVID. And we wanted to be able to give people help where they most needed it. Timely, targeted, thoughtful. That's why we're continually having to adjust. If we open slower to save lives, then maybe we need to extend a waiting period. And that's why you're seeing some of this finessing or modifying what we're doing, because the virus is really the one that is in control. We're not until, like I said, science kind of gets us out of this. But in the meantime, excuse me, science is our guide. We're going to do what we can to save lives, protect our livelihoods, continue to grow. And Congress, we are trying with all of our might to give that flexibility, revise and extend or adapt wherever we need to, so that when we do get a handle on this, we are just ready to come back all the way, hopefully better than before.
Amen.
Very good. Follow-up question on this subject. Someone asked, if you want to get information about the forgiveness rules as they are current and evolving, where could someone find information about the forgiveness rules? And then part B to that is, if the banks are looking for forgiveness rules to administer with their clients, where would they find that?
Well, I just gave you the two rules. And now the new determination is guidance. You know, the two rules are that simple. The two rules I just gave you: 75% of total funding has to go to payroll, and you must meet the number on your application for the 8 weeks that you post PPP funding. Those are the rules. Now, guidance for the lenders, that's something we're working on right now for the SBA, from my understanding. And it's going to be something that's going to be done diligently, because the first PPP fundings are going to be in the forgiveness phase. You know, the 8 week is going to be up somewhere between the next 5 to 6 weeks. So we're basically focusing right now on trying to create more stringent guidelines. Well, I'm hoping they're easy guidelines, because again, most lenders that I talk to do not want to end up with a PPP loan. It's a 2-year loan, 1% interest. It's not in their best interest to service a 2-year loan at 1% interest. So everybody is focused on forgiveness. The two guidelines, the two rules I just gave you, they are on the SBA website. Definitively, when you look for forgiveness under sba.gov/disaster loans or / paycheck protection program, and basically there's the outlines there as well. But I'll make sure that as we get a little bit closer and forgiveness guidance gets a little bit more definitive, I'll make sure, Ken, that your group and all the other groups out there get it.
Yeah, and these are the kinds of things that we put links to on our website, on our portals. So if people go to ours, Catherine Cortez Masto, we're all trying to put all the information we get from Joe, from other groups, whatever it is, we're continually trying to give these central points of contact. So as soon as we get more guidance, that's why we're updating our frequently asked questions and all those other links, sometimes multiple times in a day. And we'll continue to do that as we navigate through.
Which we definitely appreciate. Okay, we have time for one more question. If someone wants to put something in the chat room.
Oh no, the pressure of the last question. It's always the pressure.
Otherwise, I'm going to take presidential privilege here. In fact, what I'll do is I do want to ask one quick question.
Man, I got a question. I'm sorry. I was waiting for somebody else there.
Go ahead.
But the one thing I do want to ask Joe and ask Senator Rosen, even though it's a little far off, but I know SCORE has put out a template for reopening and helping small businesses to recover. What talks or thoughts are happening beyond, COVID-19? I know it's you know, we don't know when it's going to end. We don't know what's going to happen, but the next phase is recovery, right? And that's recovering Nevada. I forgot what we're calling it. The governor's calling it recovery. So what's the next phase, and what do you guys see going forward? And what lessons have you learned from the disparities in funding that we can fix for a permanent solution?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I'm by nature an optimistic person, and I always think that myself and those that I've had the pleasure to work with, that we as humans, we always work better when we're aspiring to something, when we're moving towards a goal and looking forward. So COVID, unfortunately, has laid bare some of the real disparities around our country. So I'll just pick one that everyone's been feeling right now, the digital divide. Now, then that takes place in a lot of levels, but we have places, we'll just pick Nevada, we have places with not 5G, with no G, more in rural Nevada and other places. We have underserved populations who can't even afford to get internet into their home. We're trying to work on that. Then we have people who might get internet, we can give them that, but they don't have the tech. We'll talk about kids in school. We'll just use this as a broad example. Kids in school, but they don't have a laptop or computer or some kind of technology, maybe outside of a phone. Or for telemedicine, some seniors only have an old flip phone or a home phone. They don't have a screen for someone to go to the doctor. So this whole digital divide, how do we take this? And I'm going to use education because I think this is the perfect example. How do we use it to be sure that we get, just like electricity, no one can live anymore without having the internet. So how do we make sure everyone has it, and that people have access to the technology, and that our schools aren't confined now just to using it sometimes, but to using it across the country, like thinking big. How do we bring exciting programs to classrooms to potentiate what school districts or teachers can't do with the teacher alongside? How do we use all of this in creative new ways? Because that return on investment of investing in technology and digital resources across this country, every June, it's happening right now, every June, those 12th graders across America, they're ready to, if they're prepared and they're excited and they've learned and they've had opportunity, they're prepared to launch into whatever they want to do. And so people talk, your business people on this call, return on investment, investing in our kids, in our education, in the digital divide, and those resources that is preventing people from kids from reaching their potential. Who knows where that next person, scientist, that's going to cure something like COVID, God forbid it happens again. They're sitting in kindergarten somewhere. We got to unlock that. So I want to look at the potential we have now to make, I know I feel very strongly about this, but to spend the money, making an investment in our future so that we can come out bigger and better and brighter and aspire to something. I know that's a long answer, but those are the kinds of things I want to think about as we look at all the disparities. And there's been many others that have been laid bare in our healthcare. And of course, it's a long discussion. I just picked that one because I think we always see our youth as the future. And that's something I think that we have to think about investing in. I mean, there's infrastructure, there's healthcare, there's mental health, there's a lot of things. But I think we have to use this time to take these dollars that we have and think of them as investments in our future. And if we invest it wisely and creatively, we can, and aspirationally, if you will, we can do better as we come out of this. So that's my hope as I think about things. That's how I'm trying to think about it and legislate. Well, we'll see. I'm just one person, but I try to be persuasive.
You do a very good job, and I definitely appreciate what you just talked about. The investing in eliminating the digital divide or minimizing it, I think that'll pay huge dividends in multiple areas.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why, if I can get a quick plug in, we have the Urban Chamber Information Technology or IT Roundtable, and I know you've been connected with them from time to time, so obviously we'll make sure that continues. I think I saw one more comment before we wrap up. Let's see.
Yeah, I can take another.
Yeah, it
Sure.
says from Jerome Powell, please reach out to us at Nevada School of Professional Studies. We train in IT. Okay, so you know that. In fact, what I'll ask Jerome, if you'll follow up and connect with our IT roundtable at the Urban Chamber, we'll go from there. What I want to do is, as we wrap up, Joe, if you would maybe take a minute, 1 minute of closing remarks, and then I'll come back to the senator to close this out. Joe.
Oh my gosh, I hate time limits. Just, as Senator Rosen has said, we love doing this, for the constituents, for the small business owners. I would do another 100 of these with her, no matter what the situation or circumstance is, because of the fact that we're on the same mindset. I am more of a non-interventionalist by nature, but in times like this, if we did not have the government, if we did not have a very, very strong-minded, business-minded Congress right now, our business would be in a lot of trouble. And being somebody now in public service for going on 3 years, I've sort of changed my tune a little bit, because I know that from a standpoint of what we're trying to provide, what Congress is trying to provide, us as an agency, we are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and we have a lot of things to be more flexible on and to delve deeper into, because I'm not, as Ken, you'd said, and as Shaundell, as you said, I think we'll get through this. I'm more concerned about the recovery. I'm more concerned about possibly as many as 50% of our businesses here in Nevada not making it. And not because of anything they've done unto themselves, but the fact that we will not have the tourists that we expect to have in a given year here in Nevada, and especially in Southern Nevada, that because just people aren't going to travel as much and as great as this destination is. So I'm really concerned about recovery. I'm talking about it in the different communities all the time. I'm trying to basically position people to live within their means as far as a business operation is concerned, because we don't know what revenue is going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months and possibly 6 to 18 months. So where I'm going to focus on, whether it's here at the SBA or hint in the private sector very soon thereafter, we're really going to focus on basically helping businesses survive and prosper going forward. Let's get through this survival. Let's start looking at recovery, and let's see what we can do as a community, and with the leadership of Senator Rosen and Senator Cortez Masto, and the governor and the Congress people here. Let's do what we can to help guide businesses going forward, because it's not going to be an easy haul. It's going to be very, very difficult in the recovery.
Thank you. Perfect attitude and segue. Very quickly, someone asked about artists. What I'll tell you is, if you're an artist, then potentially you're considered to be an independent contractor. Please follow up 702-648-6222, extension 103, or info@urbanchamber.org. Send that question in. We'll make sure we get you connected to follow up on that. And with that, what I want to do is, Senator Rosen, if you would, maybe a minute of positive encouragement for our small business owners and Nevadans that are on today's call.
First of all, I want to give an amen to Joe, because when there's a crisis, it's all hands on deck. I said, there's no atheists in an ICU. And so we're all, our whole country is sitting in this place. And together, we're going to get through it emotionally, financially, spiritually, in every way. I've lived in Nevada 40 years. Everything good that's happened to me is because of the relationships and friends that I've had in Nevada. And I've made and met so many more new friends since I've done this. And I feel incredibly blessed to be able to carry your stories forward. I get strength from all of you when you call me to talk to me, when you trust me or you trust Joe enough, even to cry on the phone and say, look at what's happening. Please help us. That you share and trust us with your most precious worries sometimes. It is really an honor, and we're doing our best every day, hands on. I do think we're going to get through this. It's not going to be easy, but I believe that we will get through it together even stronger. In the meantime, I am going to tell you, if you, for particularly small business questions, I've set up a small business email in particular. It's smallbusiness@rosen.senate.gov. That way it doesn't go into some of the other general, I get 15,000 emails a week, but this one, smallbusiness@rosen.senate.gov. I'm honored to work with you, and thank you for trusting me and working with me. And I just can't wait till we can all celebrate together soon, eating and joking and laughing and doing all the things that we like to do when we're together. I'm a people person, you guys know that, and I know Joe is too. I want to get back to being with everyone in the room and just sharing all the things we do as friends. So thank you. Call us. We're here, and hang in there. Please stay safe. I guess wash your hands a lot. That's.
Thank you very much, Senator. On behalf of the Urban Chamber of Commerce, on behalf of our board, our staff, our members, our volunteers, I want to say thank you for doing this today, for continuing to be a supporter, a friend of the Urban Chamber and our mission. I also want to say thank you very much to Joe for being an ongoing partner, for your team at the SBA here locally being an ongoing partner. Greatly appreciate you both. With that, I'll let everyone know that it's been a pleasure having you join us for today's small business conversation. I'm sure this will not be the last one or of this type of forum, because as we make our way through the rest of the immediate response, but just as importantly, the ongoing recovery over the next 12 to 18 months, we'll be doing this some more so that you can get the information you need to ultimately thrive and prosper. So thank you all very much. And this concludes today's small business conversation. Enjoy your weekends. Talk to you soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Joe.
Take care, Senator.